What's going on, guys? It's ZEFF, and pretty much today I have a sniping tips and tricks video, mainly because I've had so many people come to my chat ask me what's some tips or anything you can give me to get better at sniping, and to explain to each and every single person individually. It's kind of hard to go in depth about all the tips and everything I can recommend to get better at sniping. This is from my personal standpoint. Everybody's going to have their own ways of getting better at sniping. These are what helped me. This is what I still use every single day. Towards the end of the video, I'm going to show you guys what I do to practice every single day as well, and just other tips that hopefully will benefit you in getting better at sniping on BO4. So jumping right into it, tip number one being center your shot. This is something that every sniper is going to tell you to do, is to center your shot, obviously, but it's something you're going to have to learn if you want to get better at sniping. If there's a red gunner coming at you, or somebody sniping even, and you don't have your shot centered, the chance of you getting your shot off before you die is going to be unlikely unless you have your shot ready to go, ready for you to ADS and pull that trigger. One thing that really helps me with centering my shot is after I go ADS and I see where the center of my screen is, where my crosshairs are, that's where I keep my focus, is on the center of my screen while playing, and I line people up with the center of my screen, if that makes sense. Tip number two being lead your shot. This has to do when you're hard scoping or even quick scoping. You definitely want to be leading your shots. So let's say somebody's running from your left to your right. If you go to ADS on them, by the time you fully ADS or go to shoot them, they're already going to be clear to the right of your screen, right? So either you want to center your shot in front of them where they're running, or you want to ADS down sights to wherever they're running. That way, by the time they get into your crosshair or center of your screen, you're able to pull the trigger and get that kill off. Tip number three being find your own style with sniping. I feel like too many people try and mimic other people's style of sniping, I guess. They try and play exactly like them, but as you start to get better at sniping, you're going to realize that you don't play like them. You have your own style of sniping, whether it comes to movement or just how you play. You don't need to be copying other people's styles, but you can definitely take tips from them. But that's going to be what's most unique about your gameplay, is just your style of sniping and everything compared to other people. Definitely try to not copy people in exact ways. Find your own style, and trust me, it'll work out better in the long run. And tip number four being use movement when necessary. I say when necessary because right now the bolt action playlist is out. I see a lot of snipers in the bolt action playlist running around jumping 360 like with some crazy movement, right? As if they just drank like 10 bottles of G Fuel or something. But even though it's going to be really hard for me to hit them because they're moving around like crazy, they're not getting any shots off on me because they're moving around too much. Definitely, if you're still working on getting better at sniping, you don't want to be using too much movement. Only when necessary, just dodge bullets. But try working on your aim and everything before you try working too much on your movement. But your movement will also combine into your own style of sniping. And tip number five being don't be out in the open so much, and use cover when possible. Especially because the bolt action playlist that is out right now, a lot of people tend to be out in the open a lot more just because they're not getting melted right away by red gun. You just want to use cover when necessary, especially when you're going off hitting a clip. You want to keep bouncing back and forth between cover and ADSing on enemies and shooting them, with also not losing too much time. That way the speed doesn't fade away. You want to just be able to stay protected while getting your shots off, and try not to be out in the open so much. And tip number six being map awareness. This is something that's more beneficial when trying to hit clips, because with map awareness, what I mean by that is knowing where your enemies are going to spawn, where your teammates are, and predicting where you're going to get next lineup for clips. So let's say you're on contraband, right? And the whole enemy team is on the other side of the map, but your whole team's over there, and you died. You're back at your spawn. You run midway map and realize that some of the enemies are dying, but they're probably not going to be spawning over there. So it's best to wait at the midway point of the map instead of running over to the other side, because by the time you get there, the enemies are going to be dead. Your team has the spawn flip by then, and all you have to do is turn around, make it back to your original spawn where they're spawning before your teammates, and that's when you're going to get the best clip lineups, especially when your team is destroying the other team. And if you can make it back to your original spawn where the enemies are now spawning, that's going to give you a full team lineup to hit a clip. And trust me, that's how I've hit a lot of clips. I know that's how a lot of people hit a lot of clips. That's just one thing that goes into map awareness. You just want to be aware of spawns and where people might be coming from. That way you can have your shot centered, ready to shoot those people if they come around the corner or something. And tip number seven being stick to one sniper when you're learning how to snipe. This mainly goes to people that are fairly new to sniping and don't have much experience at all, because once you're more advanced at sniping, you can kind of switch between the Koshka, the Paladin, or even the Outlaw. You like to use the Outlaw. Personally, I'd say start off with the Paladin. I think it's the best getting used to, especially with quick scoping. It has slow ADS. It's almost a one shot from like the hip up for the most part. But if you're switching between the Koshka and the Paladin a whole lot, you're not going to be able to get used to the timing of the bolt actions on each sniper, and the ADS speeds and everything is just completely different. It's going to really set you back when you're trying to learn how to snipe. I would just stick to the Paladin. If you want to start off with the Koshka, do whatever you feel. If you want to start out with the Outlaw, go for it. Use whatever sniper, but just stick to that sniper when you're learning how to snipe, and trust me, it'll benefit you in the long run. And tip number 8 being, don't pull out a red gun. Just because you're getting shot on does not mean you should pull out a red gun. How are you going to learn to get better at sniping if you're just pulling out a red gun every time you go against somebody that's better than you? Plus, playing against people that are better than you is going to help you get better at the game, so just don't pull out a red gun just because you're not doing so well. And tip number 9 being, make sure to have confidence when you're going into a match. This is something that going into custom games and practicing will help you with, which I'll show at the end of the video, kind of my routine of what I do before I go into pub matches. But you want to have confidence in your shot. If you're not confident that your shot's going to hit or anything, you might pull your shot, get shaky shots, or just miss in general. But having confidence in your shot is going to increase like your sniping, and this is something to do with every single game that's competitive. Being more confident in yourself when it comes to playing the game is just going to help you be better than whoever you're going against if you're more confident. And then tip number 10, this one's obvious, but play more. Playing more, practicing more, everything in general is obviously going to help you get better. A lot of these pros that you see sniping, like Testy and all those type of snipers, they play for like 8 hours a day. They don't just hop on the game for a few hours, hit a few clips and get off. Grinding out the game for extended periods of time every single day. This is their job, and this is why they're so good at sniping, is because how much time they put into it as well. And tip number 11, maybe consider playing Claw. This one is not necessary. This is something that I didn't even switch over to playing Claw on Call of Duty. It's actually Fortnite that made me switch over to playing Claw. That way I could get faster edits off. If you've played Fortnite, you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, before I switched over to Fortnite when BO4 first came out, I didn't play Claw. But then when I came back and started playing Claw, I realized I could get my movement and punches and whatever I needed to off a lot more quicker because I was playing Claw. But playing Claw is definitely a huge benefit if you're willing to. Depends how serious and how much time you're willing to invest into sniping. And tip number 12 being, consider getting back paddles, especially if you don't want to play Claw. You don't have to even buy a scuff controller or elite controller. You can actually just buy back paddles that goes into the battery pack on the back of your controller. Once again, this is not something that's necessary. I see plenty of good snipers that don't play Claw or with back paddles. This is just something that might help you when it comes to getting more movement and using all the other buttons without having to take your finger off the triggers. But definitely not necessary. Like I said, I see plenty of good snipers all the time that don't use either. It might be something worth considering if you're willing to invest that much time. All right, moving over to the settings now. Tip 13 is going to be your sensitivity. Currently, I'm playing on 1111, 1x high zoom. I used to like playing with a really high zoom. I'm talking about 1.5 to a 2x. I found that my shot was not as consistent having that high of a high zoom. I also went through a phase where I'd play on 1414 with a 4x high zoom. So I mean, I've definitely tried it out, don't get me wrong, and I went through a long phase of like a few months of playing on that high of a sensitivity. Playing on a lower sensitivity, I found that I hit my shots a lot more consistent. With all that being said, you want to find your own sensitivity. You don't want to copy mine. Everybody's going to have their own sensitivity that works best for them. Typically, I'd stay above A8 sensitivity, but I've seen snipers do well lower than that. A8 to 1212 or even max sensitivity. If that's what you want to do, go for it. And then once you do find the sensitivity that you do want to use for sniping, you want to make sure that you're not changing your sensitivity too much, because every time you change your sensitivity, you're pretty much relearning how to aim a sniper. So you definitely don't want to be changing your sensitivity after you find one that you're very comfortable with, and stick to the same sensitivity. Tip number 14 is going to be a personal preference. You do not have to do this. I heard about a different sniper doing it. I tried it out and I actually got used to it and liked it. I switched my triggers to my bumpers, which is the very bottom setting down here. So pretty much I use LB to aim and RB to shoot. With doing this makes it so you can time your shots more accurately. When ADSing, you can get your shot off exactly when you want it to go off. I found it really nice. I feel like it also improves my reaction time. It's all up to you though. If you want to try it out, see how it feels. And then moving on to tip number 15 is I turned off my vibration. And I used to be against this. I used to always play with my vibration on, and I knew that people would say if you turned your vibration off, it made it so you could actually concentrate. It didn't distract you when it vibrated. I decided to turn it off and I got used to it, and I actually like it so much more than having vibration on. But trust me, it's worth considering turning it off. If you want to leave it on, no big deal. personal preference. And then tip number 16 is actually going to be class setup. This is all also going to be based off your personal preference, but the two main class setups I see attachment wise on the Paladin at least is whether you use stabilizer or no stabilizer. But this is my main class setup right here. I like running one stabilizer. Pretty much what stabilizer benefits with is people at center shots rather than drag scope more. Feel free to mess around with things in custom games and find kind of what fits your playstyle the best. Now moving on to my warm-up routine. This is what I do before I go into pub matches just to make sure my shot's on. I know a lot of other people do this as well, and I highly recommend that you practice in custom games at least once a day. So jumping into the settings of how I set up mine, I like to either do Nuketown, firing range, any map that pretty much has a center point of the map where you're consistently shooting people. So we're gonna do Nuketown, set the game mode to free for all, go down to rules, set it to unlimited. You can put the points either to unlimited. For me, usually I just snipe about 100 to 150 bots to get my shot on. Then moving over to gameplay, if you want to turn the mini map on, you can. I personally leave it off. Then health regeneration speed, I just put that on instant. Turn down all the cooldowns so there's no specialists at all. Then go down to bot settings, set it over to recruit or whatever setting you want to do. Spam the lobby with bots until it's completely filled or however many you want to do. So tip 17 obviously is practice on bot if you can daily. It's going to benefit you a lot, believe me, especially when you're first starting out with sniping and trying to get used to the feel of sniping and like getting your shots on, working on centering and everything. So tip 18 being improve your muscle memory. So one way that you can actually kind of improve your muscle memory, it's kind of hard to explain. So pretty much to improve your muscle memory, you want to start out really slow, pretty much with no movement. Right now I'm just walking around just because I'm talking. But anyways, you don't want to focus on your movement or anything. You want to work on centering. So make sure you kind of know where the center of your screen is. I'm going to show you right here. Just kind of take it slow. Make sure they're in the center of your screen when you go to shoot. And pretty much what you're going to want to be doing is making sure that all your shots connect. Playing slow, just kind of giving you guys kind of idea what I'm talking about. You're going to start slow and continue doing that, just taking your time. But as long as your shots are connecting, you can kind of keep picking up the pace, start moving faster. So this is just something that's going to really benefit you in pretty much all ways around. Also, tip 19 being time your shots. So pretty much first part of timing your shots is when you ADS, you want to shoot right away. Don't get me wrong, when you're playing online, you're not always going to be able to get the best quick scope or whatever, but you want to time your shots so that when you fully ADS, you're pulling the trigger and going back out of your ADS. And then last but not least, improve your reaction time. So when practicing on these bots as well, once you feel a lot more warmed up, you want to be shooting the bots as if it's an online game and shooting them pretty much as quick as possible. But pretty much what you want to be doing is shooting the bots as quick as possible, as if it's an online game, getting your shots off as quick as possible. And this is just going to be something to kind of help you also improve your reaction time. This is something you want to be aware of, even online games. Like, you just want to constantly be trying to get a faster reaction time than whoever you're going against. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. If you guys have any questions or anything, drop a comment down below. I'll respond. I pretty much respond to every single comment. Also, if you ever want to come and tune into any of my live streams, I'm live every day, 5 p.m. Mountain Time. If you don't know what time zone that is, it's 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And I'm also going to be trying to post a lot more videos. I'm trying to get more in the groove of YouTube and everything. So let me know what you guys think of this video. Drop a like if you did enjoy. But for now, that's going to be all. Hopefully I did cover just about everything. But thank you guys for watching the video. Hopefully you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys next time.